kids. Good evening and welcome to our special call October 30th, 2024 meeting of the City of Tuscaloosa Planning and Zoning Commission. This time, I'd like to introduce our staff: Ashley Kreitz, Executive Director, Urban Planning; Zach Pons, Director of Planning; Jimbo Woodson, Deputy City Attorney. There are 9 members of the Planning Commission, all of whom are appointed by the Mayor for staggered terms, with the exception of the City Council representative, who is appointed by the City Council. I ask the Commission members to introduce themselves and state their occupation, beginning with Ms. Prince.
Dina Prince, I'm an attorney.
Tim Harrison, General Contractor.
John Smith, Deputy Director, Environmental Services.
Eddie Pugh, retired Tuscaloosa Fire Rescue.
Bill Wright, business owner. There are sign-up sheets outside for public comment. If you did not sign up, you'll still be given an opportunity to speak during the public comment portion of the agenda. Tonight's procedures: the Commission will take up items in order of the agenda. The Commission will receive a presentation from staff. After the staff presentation, the floor will be open to public comment. Individuals wishing to express support or opposition will be given 3 minutes to speak. Only the Planning Commission can grant a specified time extension to an individual. Public comment will be received, the floor closed to public comment, and the Commission will open discussion among themselves, reserving the opportunity to accept or reject any proposed changes from the public comment. These proceedings are video recorded and broadcast live. All public comments should be made at the podium into the microphone. Please first state your name and address for the record. Jurisdiction: regarding zoning map and text amendments, Section 11-52-76 of the Code of Alabama states, the legislative body of such municipality shall provide for the manner in which such regulations and restrictions and the boundaries of such districts shall be determined, established, and enforced from time to time, amended, supplemented, or changed, and may adopt such ordinance as may be necessary to carry into effect and make effective the provisions of this article. The Planning and Zoning Commission serves as a recommending body to the legislative body. As advertised, this recommendation vote is eligible for tonight's meeting. If there is a vote to recommend adoption by this body, the zoning text amendments and zoning map amendments will not be enforced until the full zoning text and zoning map changes are adopted by the City Council. At this time, I ask, do any members of the Commission have any conflicts of interest or possible conflicts as for any topics on the agenda for discussion this evening? If so, please state for the record. Having heard none, with that, we will begin.
Well, good evening, Commission. I think we all sit here today and say it's a long time coming, especially those of you who have been in the trenches with us since 2018. This evening, of course, we are going to go through our meeting expectations. Just to walk you through the timeline of this evening, we're going to do our meeting expectations, but then we're going to hop in that Wayback Machine and talk about why we even started this in the first place. We'll talk about the process that we went through to develop the code update as well as the zoning map update. And then we will have a time for public comment and then go over the Planning Commission's role in this process. And if you so desire this evening to provide a recommendation vote to the council, that will be the opportunity at the end of the meeting. So as always, we talk about our meeting expectations, and our steering committee members will note your role in that process. State that you were a member of the steering committee at the podium if you're providing public comment. For our Planning and Zoning Commission members, of course, you have had opportunity to review that draft code update, the proposed map. We'll just refrain from arguing with public commenters, listen, ask questions if you don't understand or need clarification, and look to have an expedited proceeding this evening. For everyone, our meetings begin at 5 p.m. and end no later than 7 p.m. We'll utilize the 3-minute timer visible to all parties, and staff is managing the flow of the meeting for efficiency's sake. So let's talk about why we did framework in the first place, and what was that comprehensive plan. Of course, a comp plan is that citywide policy guide that looks at the values and aspirations of a community. It is looking at that long-range vision for a city, and it's a guidebook for decision makers. We utilize it as city staff as well as, and it's not just a planning document, it's utilized by our budgeting team, by our construction and facilities team, our transportation team, everyone within the city government and outside utilizes a comprehensive plan. But there are policies, projects, and programs that address community aspirations that we implement over time, and it provides that foundation for our city's regulations. We also use it as a marketing tool. So when somebody wants to come to town, they can take a look at our comprehensive plan. So we did framework to define that long-term vision for Tuscaloosa, setting the direction for the city's growth and development. And this process has created now a comprehensive plan that was adopted in February of 21, and this update to the city's zoning and land development regulations. We had to do it. Number one, it's good stewardship. But also, since we had a previous plan in 2009, the community had a global recession, population growth, the 2011 tornado, and then, of course, as we found in that process, the 2020 COVID pandemic that we battled through the entire time. So it was the city's first comprehensive plan since 1972. And I've gotten lectured for saying how old 1972 is. But when it comes to the idea of a document that is supposed to be living and breathing for a community that is growing the way that ours was, it was fairly antiquated to not have a comprehensive plan. So it updated, integrated, reconciled plans from 2007, 2009, and other geographic focused plans that we had developed. Think of the District 3, or the West Tuscaloosa, Alberta, all of those plans piled in together. And it addressed that broad range of topics that I mentioned earlier, citywide needs and also specific areas with achievable specific actions as well as long-term goals. And we are implementing it, and there's a process to monitor our progress. And when you look in that last chapter, in chapter 7, our achieving chapter, and we start to go through that list of the things that we have accomplished, my gosh, y'all, the feeling of accomplishment that we should have as a city to see that our goals are being achieved, phenomenal. So our team, of course, was led by Planning Next, and I've highlighted Clarion Associates because they are the stars of this portion of our show. But you can see those other individuals as part of this. So, of course, Framework was led by a steering committee along with stakeholders, the public, the staff, elected officials, and consultants. Of course, that steering committee was a group of 30 that was formed to represent the community and provide guidance and direction and act as spokespeople. You'll see those members listed on the screen, as well as 2 subcommittees, a housing subcommittee and a lakes subcommittee that met to focus on those individual areas. And we've talked about this screen a lot, and it bears remembering for this process again tonight. The participation that we had, so 325 individuals came for the Forum on the Future in November of 2018, and they said, this is the direction we want to see the city go in. 450 showed up at the open house to say, oh, you heard what I had to say, and I see that reflected in the comprehensive plan. We saw 137 comment cards at the open house, 80 map comments, and 27 text comments to get us to a point to adopt our Framework Comprehensive Plan. Of course, we had to pause for a moment to reassess what we were doing because of COVID-19, but as you'll see in these adoption process meetings, by February 17th of 21, we were at a place to review and provide an adoption vote. And for that, I'm eternally thankful for you and this body. So let's talk about the code and that map process and how we have now found ourselves together at this juncture this evening. So, of course, after February of 21, we rested for a moment, and then we got back to work. So the process began individually in May of 21. We did some listen and learn sessions. And then publicly in October of 21, Clarion came to town, and they presented to both you and the Tuscaloosa City Council on back-to-back nights. Following that meeting, staff and Clarion worked closely together to develop that initial zoning draft. And we began public discussion in April of 22. So by January of 2024, we were ready to finally publicly discuss the zoning map. What does that boil down to? 1,115 days, 29 Planning and Zoning Commission public meetings, over 34,600 parcels in the city limits that we all reviewed and assigned new zoning to. We looked at 248 individual parcels with 248 map comments, with comments on them that we had to then make a decision on as a group. Over 600 staff hours, and my sweet inbox has about 4,800 emails just in the framework code update folder. So the amount of time and energy that I know that we have had in this process, it shows on our faces, it shows in the relief of being at a place to provide that recommendation vote this evening. So our code update team, of course, was led by Clarion Associates. They have done more than 150 comprehensive code updates, and this is a slide that they used in their October 21 meeting. I'm sure it has been updated since then, but you can see how they are scattered across the country, and they have offices in both North Carolina and Colorado, which reflects the clustering that you see in those two states. They do have a lot of experience in the Southeast United States and in college towns, and they are national leaders in the best zoning practices and led the code update element of framework. Of course, the examples of their code experience are on the left-hand side of your screen, and our friends Craig Richardson was the project director, and Jeff Green was the associate that helped us out. I know that they are going to be so sad to stop getting emails from both Zach and I. Of course, Planning Next didn't just sneak into the background on this. They continued to be the lead framework consultant, and they helped us with the website and our online public engagement support. The map that we utilized, putting the document online in an easy way for people to see, that was led by Planning Next. With both Jamie Green and specifically Michael Curtis. So we had those listen and learn sessions. We as staff conducted those in May of 21 with that diverse group of stakeholders. We asked about issues that should be addressed in that code update. We heard from engineers, surveyors, architects, neighborhood groups, key stakeholder organizations, the business community. We made sure to cover everyone who would be impacted. What do you want to see done differently in a new zoning ordinance? And the things that we heard were, make the regulations more user-friendly. We heard that across the board, that the codes need to be more user-friendly, to reorganize in a logical sense, to use precise language, more plain English, update some definitions. Adding graphics, illustrations, get rid of old things that were obsolete. A telegraph office, anyone? You know, our new code doesn't reference a telegraph office anymore. I know you're all very sad. We wanted to make sure that our development standards were more measurable and weren't just guessing or throwing things at a wall. We wanted to modernize and modify our zoning districts, especially with nonconformity situations that you see in places in our community that were platted prior to zoning. Looking at things like higher end materials in downtown, making sure that the variety and the quality of design in downtown and the riverfront reflected the special nature of those two places particularly. We also wanted to see a reduced reliance on the planned unit development, creating codes that would allow developers to come in and build by right instead of always having to come and ask for a planned unit development if they wanted to do something unique. Wanted to provide additional housing options and protecting the existing character of residential neighborhoods from encroachment and incompatible land uses, also increasing the variety of housing options with both workforce and affordable housing. We heard that we wanted to modernize parking standards, to bring them into a more 2024 world as opposed to 1972, as well as some other development standards, i.e. buffering. The landscape buffer ordinance, while Eric Thompson wrote a wonderful ordinance and our landscaping back in the day. I think it was 2007. It needed some updates to provide clarity, strengthen our connectivity standards, modernizing our lighting standards, and looking again at materials. And I spoke about this morning with a group about how excited they were to see material standards put in place for commercial development. So the meetings that we had, I mentioned we had 29 of them, and you'll see the topics discussed across these next few slides. From October of 21 to December 22 on this page. As we moved into 23, you saw us focusing on those specific areas, getting into signs and billboards, getting into updates to some specific zones, and then the map update meetings, where we talked specifically about those areas of the city with our last 3 meetings from July 31st, August 28th, and October 7th, focusing on the city as a whole. So very briefly, with that framework document and the zoning text, over the course of 23 public hearings, stakeholder involvement meetings, et cetera, there were various changes that happened throughout the text, and you've been able to see those changes reflected in the draft that's been online. The revisions were made from staff review and comments received during those code update meetings. I know that those of us in this room are familiar with that code and map update process, but just really quickly again, of course, we use that future land use and character map from the comprehensive plan document to help inspire and create our new zoning map. Of course, that future land use and character map was not a mandate for development. It was simply a policy guide that we implemented. So to create the new zoning map, staff, of course, had the task and the honor to create the initial draft, and we utilized the future land use character map, the existing zoning, current land uses, as well as professional judgment and expertise. Specific areas of the city then were sent out, posted on the framework website, sent out for email and public comment, and those comments were discussed at each individual meeting. And as I mentioned previously, those final 3 meetings looked at the city as a whole. And as y'all remember, we discussed a few properties a few times. So when people went to the website, they were able to see that online tool that we created. And all 248 individual map comments that were placed on the map. And we have kept that archive of those comments for review. So over the course of the 9 map-based meetings, approximately 200 map changes were made via staff, public engagement, and stakeholder engagement. And the public comment on individual parcels was taken from January 8th until October 7th of 2024. So Commission, with that, I think that takes us into the public comment portion of our evening. Do you have any questions for me while I'm here?
Oh, ma'am, thank you. At this point, we'll ask for any public comments. We have the timer ready. We have a 3-minute limit on that. So,
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, you had one person that has signed up to speak, Ms. Susie Smith.
okay. Smith?
If I go really fast, I can do it in 3 minutes. Susie Smith, 17 Springbrook. Appointed by then District 7 City Councilor Sonia McKinstry, I was a member of the Framework Steering Committee. I attended all the meetings of the Steering Committee and all the meetings of the Housing Subcommittee, as well as the 2018 Forum on the Future and the 2 sessions of the Framework Open House in 2019. I recognize the time, effort, energy, and commitment that the planning staff and the Planning Commission members have devoted to Framework, and I commend you. I have attended Framework Commission meetings related to the new land use character document and the new zoning document here in City Hall as well as virtually. After a somewhat rocky start, planning staff established a workable process that moved forward deliberations of the new land use document and the new zoning code. In the meetings, the commission considered written comments, comments of those attending the meetings, and asked questions of staff to better understand the issues before them. However, I also observed the following. the Commission's seeming lack of familiarity with and preparation for issues on the agenda, and their lack of familiarity with the zoning codes themselves pertinent to the agenda items at hand. And some votes of the Commission on similar requests for reconsidering planning staff's designated zoning were inconsistent, voting to change some on the one hand, and on the other advising the requester that he or she must come back to the Commission with a formal rezoning after the new zoning is in force. Inconsistency in applying the new zoning codes, whether inadvertent or intentional in the case of Springbrook, does not engender trust or confidence in the fairness of the Commission's rulings. It does, however, breed distrust and provoke concern that the Commission's rulings are biased. When the Commission votes in violation of, in contradiction of, or by ignoring the dictates in the new zoning document, it weakens the document's effectiveness and harms the document's long-term viability with the public. In one of his commentaries on AL.com in May, John Archibald wrote, Thomas Jefferson argued that when a person assumes a position of public trust, he should consider himself as public property. It's bigger than him or her. You have to believe it, or trust in government goes to hell, voters yawn, power is bought and sold, and we the people don't get our due. A board that appears to pick and choose on the basis of popularity or politics seems broken. And appearance is important, especially when it comes to public officials. In the May Commission meeting, I reminded you that all the decisions you make here affect the lives of ordinary people. I urge you, I admonish you to please keep that top of mind in the future.
Thank you.
Oh, I have a little thing I'd like to give you. It will take those of you who were here in 2017 back in memory a little bit, and those of you who weren't here, you will know what happened.
Anyone else? No one else signed up, you said, to speak, right? Would anyone in the audience care to speak about tonight's topic? Last chance. Okay. All right. Staff, any more final comments or anything that you want to wrap up with before we? Would you like to come to the microphone and?
All right, Commission, of course, your role this evening, the state of Alabama, Jimbo's favorite topic this evening, but the state of Alabama code, of course, in 1152-2 creates that planning commission, authorizes cities to create them, outlines your powers and duties in 1152-6 to promote municipal planning. Of course, we reviewed 1152-8 when we adopted the master plan. It is the function and duty of the commission to make and adopt a master plan. The purpose of zoning regulations is outlined in 1152-72. Such regulations shall be made in accordance with a comprehensive plan and designed to lessen a variety of items. Such regulations shall be made with reasonable consideration, among other things, to the character of the district and its peculiar suitability for particular uses, etc. In 1152-76, this is the final two, I promise you, that I love state code, but we're just outlining where we are tonight. The legislative body, of course, is the only group that has the ability. The legislative body provides for the manner in which the regulation and the districts and the boundaries shall be determined, and from time to time amends, supplements, changes, and may adopt ordinances that are necessary to carry into effect. So you, as the Planning and Zoning Commission, are a recommending body to the Tuscaloosa City Council on matters such as zoning. And the state code acknowledges that such regulations from time to time may be amended. And Commission, if you choose this evening the time has come potentially for a vote to recommend approval of both the zoning text that will replace Chapter 24 in its entirety, and a zoning map that will replace and rezone the entire city of Tuscaloosa.
Before we get to that point, I think it's incumbent upon us to say that this has been a long process, and I think several of the members on this commission have been involved from day one, and others have joined us during the process. I know I can only speak for myself, and I hope I speak for others, is that, you know, our intention is to obviously put the city in a better place than it has been. And going forward, I think the desire to make this plan work and be more user-friendly and understandable, and an improvement, again, to set the city up to leap forward in the years to come. So, you know, we might have, we're not perfect, but I think everybody's intentions have been wholesome, and we tried to do the best we could with the information we had. And I know that in going forward, this commission and body will always look at what we did, and if it needs to be changed, we'll talk about it and we'll make changes. But I think we've got this plan about as good as we can get at this point. I think it's time to, like we did with Forward years ago, at some point you got to put it in place and go with it. And it will all work itself out. And this body, I think, is committed to making sure that we do that. And so, again, I applaud staff. I know we kind of got the easy job somewhat up here tonight, but we came here every Wednesday night, once a month, to make some decisions, and I think we came with our best intentions to make the right decisions. And I can sleep well tonight knowing that we did that. So I'm excited we're here. I look forward to tonight where I think this might go, and I look forward to the city council doing their responsibility, and then hopefully January 1, this thing's in place and we can start in a new world to make Tuscaloosa bigger and better and stronger than it is today. So those are my few comments, and I'll let anybody else want to say anything they can.
Mr. Chairman, well said.
We'll see, yeah.
I will say that I'm tired. It's a long run. It's been a task that we took on 2.5 years ago, I guess, when this thing really got serious. When we started having our additional meetings, it came with the sacrifice of everybody on this commission. I know the majority of us made the majority of the meetings, and I appreciate everybody's commitments. We had to work around vacations, we had to work around weddings, we had to work around deaths of our spouses, our family members. You know, as far as the staff is concerned, I want to thank y'all for what you did. Y'all did an excellent job of getting us familiar with the topic that we were discussing each month. I, for one, if I ever had any questions of the material that y'all gave me, I got answers correctly, quickly, and efficiently. I stand on the fact that this commission has been consistent in its approach to what we've tried to do. There's always one side that's not satisfied with the decision that this commission has made, and we recognize that. We recognize it to the fact that in my business, I've lost business because of it. But fair and simple, because I stood on what I thought was best for the city. That's why I'm here. I'm not here for any reason. I'm not here for any gain. I'm here because I want Tuscaloosa to be better. I wanted Tuscaloosa to be a place where my kids could grow up and find a job and have a home and have a good school system. I think that's why the majority of us. I feel very strong bond between all our commission members that they are committed to what the path that we chose to take. I appreciate serving with you. Staff, thank you for what you've done. I'm proud of where we're at. Let's move forward.
Anyone else? Okay. Having heard none, it's our statement for the night. Commission, I move to recommend approval of the drafting zone ordinance text as presented to replace the existing zoning ordinance in Chapter 24 in the draft zoning map. Rezone the entire city as presented. Do I have a motion and a second?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve?
Second.
Ms. Prince?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion approved. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
Get our Wednesdays back.
You do. You get your Wednesdays back with certainty.
You want to give with next steps, Ms.
Yeah,
Price?
let's talk about some next steps
Yep.
really quickly. For those who are still in this process with us, the council schedule is as follows. On November 5th, we'll be giving an overview to the Tuscaloosa City Council. Of course, they've been in lockstep with us, and thanks to Ms. Howard, I know she couldn't be here this evening, but she's done a phenomenal job of keeping her fellow council members up to speed as well. Of course, we have been in touch with the council throughout the process, and so we'll be briefing them on November 5th. On November 19th, we will introduce and set a date for public hearing on, and that public hearing will be December 17th at the Tuscaloosa City Council meeting. So, of course, for all things Framework, please visit framework.tuscaloosa.com. You can review the text, review the map, and wait for January 1st, when hopefully we will see this adopted and implemented.
Any last comments? Meeting adjourned. Hallelujah.